I'll just put like ask Garyvee and pin it. Where are we taking questions? Taking from community.
Community.
How you pin it?
I got it.
Should I pin it or just hold it?
Yeah. Thanks.
Right.
Do I need double mic?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that a good angle for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Luke, can you pull out some cards from there?
Just have mountains.
Do you want to update the blog on what's going on?
Was that one?
The blog?
Yeah, about to go on a live to answer sports card questions. It's obviously been a very huge topic in my world, and I thought it'd be a good idea to attack it. I need, you know what I need? The big dog stuff.
That's what I'm getting to.
Thank you.
Well, just like, I mean, we want this.
Yeah, but expense that. Yep, expense that. I'm going for the mother load of like what my thinking is of this. What? Just like, you give me that?
I want to be more center.
Huh?
I want to go more center.
This is fine. Oh, nice.
Alright, I'm ready to go. Keep going with your phone, because I'll be yapping for a few minutes while you get some stuff going. I'll take a key. How close are you guys?
20 seconds.
Including YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody else live?
Mm-hmm.
Not yet?
I am.
You are live? I don't necessarily need you to be, but like, I'll take it. It's fine. Like, so who's live?
I am right now for
With?
Instagram.
What's up, Instagram? I don't have a lot to say about that. Actually, it's good. I'm gonna straight out for that. Instagram, TikTok live.
Yes.
TikTok, what's good?
Twitter.
Twitter live, good.
Facebook and LinkedIn is now live.
Cool. Live? We're fully live. Facebook and LinkedIn. YouTube one.
I'm pretty sure YouTube as well. Yeah, it is.
Yeah?
Yep.
Awesome. Everything's live. Good. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? I'm in a really, really good mood. I thought it would be a really good idea for me to do a bunch of Q&A. And here's how we're going to do the Q&A. If you want to ask a question about sports cards, you can text me the question at 212-931-5731 for everybody who is manning the cameras. If you want to pin that phone number to the top real quick or repeat it or whatever you're planning on doing, 212-931-5731, 212-931-5731. That sticker would be good because I want to talk about that. So I'm going to answer a bunch of sports questions. Let me get a little bit of a rant out on what's been going on, a little history of how I got here, and then we'll just go into full Q&A. Obviously, I'm extremely excited about sports cards, as you've been able to tell with my content over the last 60, 90 days especially. it all kind of started in 1986. From 1986 to 1994, I was wildly in the sports card game. I did sports card shows in a lot of weekends in 8th grade and then high school. Then I started working in the store a lot, my dad's liquor store, so I did less, but I was constantly in that game. I had a blip of a comeback in 2003 because I felt LeBron James was a generational talent, and so I bought a ton of 03 Fleer, and unfortunately when Lou was a little guy, but then got busy and didn't really go as hard all the way through to Topps Chrome or some of the other stuff as I wanted to, but we did that. And then 2 years ago, it started getting really real for me. My little guy was starting to get into it, and his friends, and it kind of got on my radar. Obviously a huge connection point. It's one of my macro theses. There's a lot of macro theses that made me decide to call my friends 2 Augusts ago and say, hey, sports cards are about to come back in a real way. One of them was dads in my age who were really in that prime collecting era, that golden era, which also then became the junk wax era, started having children that were interested in cards, and I thought there was a reloop in the same way that I learned at Hasbro and Mattel when they were clients of VaynerMedia, that toy franchises tend to loop every 25 or 30 years because the parent really gets interested in their kids being a part of there. So anyway, I'm going to keep telling the story, but I want to just remind everybody, if you're just jumping on, I'm doing full Q&A. We're going to start taking questions very shortly. If you have a question about sports cards, just text me right now. We've got it pulled up here, 212-931-5731. Put in your question, we're going to call you, and you're going to ask your question. So put in your question, we're going to call you right here so we can banter back and forth, pro, con, or indifferent. I go to the National in Cleveland 2 years ago, kind of very stealth for a day and a half. Take my little guy, buy him a bunch of cards, watch, learn. I then spend a couple of months really, really spending my time on eBay and reading forums and blog posts about what has happened. Met a bunch of different prominent dealers, asked them questions about the lost years for me, of what happened during the lower production years. What are these basketball inserts? Started following a bunch of Instagram accounts. Started getting really passionate about it. Quietly started, getting into it a little bit louder at times. 15 or so months ago, maybe even more, 16 months ago, started talking about the fact that I thought Giannis, at that point I decided basketball was a really good bet. I thought Giannis was super underpriced because I thought he was on the verge of becoming the best basketball player in the world. Couldn't believe how inexpensive his rookies were. Made some of that content. That was the first time some of you saw me on that. Sold some of the ones that I've accumulated for $200. That's bad now, since they're $2,600, maybe even more. Thought that was a good bet. Started thinking other things were good bets. Put out a blog post 10 months ago on things that I saw that I thought were underpriced. Jordan sticker, because I think clear stickers were underpriced. Basketball in general, vintage basketball, soccer, wrestling. Big shout out to King Kong Bundy, one of the greats. Still has the fastest win in WrestleMania when he destroyed SD Jones in 12 seconds or something like that. Got really excited about it. Got super hyped for National last year, where I met a ton of the people in the industry. Got a table there. Was super pumped about that. Did a collaboration with Topps. Topps paid me $25,000 to curate a set that they sold at the event. That was cool. That was fun to be part of. Baseball card was an insert in Series 2. Super pumped about that. Met a ton of people at the National last year, paid attention to the trends, and felt like a couple things had emerged. One, sneaker collector kids needed to address the fact that inventory was getting harder to get over the last decade, because you couldn't really go to sneaker stores, buy up, and then flip. That the StockX IPOs, the Nike Direct, that game was changing, and those entrepreneurs, which is another thing, entrepreneurship as a whole, what I grew up with, is one of the reasons I think this is happening. Sneaker kids needing an outlet to get inventory and flip, because that's what they are, is an outlet. More collectors growing, because 40-year-olds now have, some of them now have more income to buy the card that they always wanted. I think there's a prop here for me. This 84 Topps Don Mattingly rookie card was the biggest deal to me when I was a kid. Being able to get it in a 10. We'll get into grading. We'll get into the grading companies. We'll get into the companies that own the IP of these cards. Kept watching the space. Kept seeing momentum build. And 3 or 4 months ago, said wow, this is about to get very serious. There's just more demand coming in. Supply on the vintage stuff is quite low. Supply on the modern stuff in the super premium has been manipulated to be low, 1 of 10, 1 of 1s, autos, and just general production. I do think the popularity of sports cards is going to lead the Paninis and Topps to start producing Bowman, select optic, like bigger quantity levels. I don't know any details, but it surely, I'm aware that, or I believe, or I've heard through the grapevine that production numbers on Panini basketball this year are obviously a hell of a lot higher than they were in 2012, and so what does the debate become between the volume of population output between a Kawhi Leonard rookie and a Zion? There's going to be a big delta there. So all the trends that you saw happen in 86 to 94 will happen again from the Panini top standpoint, upper deck. They should. Those companies are in the business of selling product. We need to be thoughtful of how we supply and demand that. The grading company dynamic, even though PSA started in 1991, I faded out in 94, and it still had not really hit my radar. I was a smaller dealer, punk kid in New Jersey, so I wasn't going to the national. I'm sure you saw the early indications of that. Now that is a standard. There's a human subjectiveness in grading cards from SGC, BGS, and PSA, which I think are the 3 top leaders. And there's some other companies. Which brand, no different than Sotheby's and Tiffany's and Christie's, holds the most value? Which brand is the brand of the moment? I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to share. I myself am trying to navigate the sports card world right now. Like, I don't know what's right for me to do. Like, do I buy things quietly and never share it and just like live my life? I want to talk about it because I'm excited about it, and I also spend my life trying to tell people, things that I see to share to make their worlds better. And so no different than me thinking that you should do TikTok, no different than telling everybody years ago to buy Facebook stock at $20 or $30 a share. I genuinely think sports cards are going to continue to go up quite a bit. Gambling is a huge thread. If you look at the average 15 to 30-year-old male and female, but like the culture of sports fans, they love to gamble. Daily fantasy sports, regular gambling. The demonization of gambling is going away. If you really look at what makes it fun to open packs, it is gambling. You can literally buy a $200 pack. You can literally pull a $10,000 card. Breaking culture, this dynamic of people, on YouTube opening up packs and people buying slots, or them just entertaining, in the same way that slime for little girls worked, is happening for sports cards. A lot of people are watching that content. There's a lot of dynamics in play to why I think sports card. 44-year-olds looking like, I don't want to buy fucking art. Like, I don't want to buy some fucking old fucking art of some Englishmen or a fucking scene of a hill. Like, my art is this. My art is this. Like, I want to build a case in my home, and when my friends come over, I don't want to be like, here's a Picasso. Fuck Pablo Picasso. I want to show them my stack of 150 Akeem Olajuwon rookie cards. That's cooler for me. That's more interesting for me. And so I think when you look at the average 35 to 60-year-old businessman and woman, they're more casual. They care more about their stuff. And I think sports cards has the potential very quickly to become the kind of thing that people display in their homes, no different than a nice painting. And I think that's going to happen with comic books, and I think you're going to see that quite a bit. I think Bieber posted a post maybe 6 months ago where he showed a huge stack of like his epic Pokemon collection that he bought. So I think that's a dynamic. I think there's a lot of dynamics. I think there's a lot of emerging things that are dangerous. I think a lot of people are getting into it that are not educated. They may follow me and get super excited and then just go buy stuff without knowing what grading company is good, what brands are good. They're just blindly buying. I think there's trimming. There's people that are altering cards, and you got a human grading this. That creates a vulnerability. That becomes a big, deep thing that people are concerned about. I understand. Fraudulent plays in coins and art and everything else as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That's my framework. I'm super excited about it. I think there's some epic long-term opportunities. For me, long-term opportunities look like this. LeBron is everyone's Jordan of this generation. And I don't know how people are confused by this. It's fucking LeBron. And God forbid he wins a title this year or anywhere in the next 36 months. He starts getting into some really interesting conversations. Not to mention, I don't know if you've been following LeBron James as a human, but so many of the good things he does as a human is going to keep him culturally relevant. He wants to play until his son plays. Like, if that works out, that's going to be a cultural moment in 6 years or whatever the kid's age is right now. And then there's this, underpriced vintage basketball. I think basketball is clearly the next iconic sport in America, and it's a global sport in a lot of ways. That's why I also like soccer. And so I'm very hot on the Dr. J's, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, Lou Alcindor rookie, the Oscar Robinson. Then I think there's a nice little stack of Magic and Bird rookies that I have historically thought are underpriced. And then there's betting. There's short-term betting. Baseball's coming around right now. A lot of you have seen on Twitter me getting excited about baseball. Much like gambling, sports cards helps you enjoy sports more. I could give two shits unless Juan Soto was on my fantasy team, which he's not, because in our dynasty league, who's got Soto? Sinema? Or somebody's going to keep him. So he's not going to be available to me, which means I would not care about him at all. Now, because I think he's one of the best young players in baseball, and I think he has the potential to be better than Acuna in a world where I think Acuna is all-time as well. Like, that's going to make it exciting for me to watch. Like, I can get really pumped about Nationals baseball now, because if Soto hits 4 homers, that market fluctuates. That's like fun. That's what the Pete Alonso theory was for me a couple weeks ago. People love the long haul. Don't get it twisted. 5-tool athletes are great for actual baseball. If Pete Alonso hits 53 fucking home runs again this year, with his popularity and the way he rolls in New York, that becomes a supply and demand. It's just supply and demand. There's the marketing side and there's the collecting side. For many people in the hobby, collecting is their passion, and things going up in price is not fun. I respect the shit out of that. On the same token, there's a lot of people who flip it. To me, I don't get to make a judgment on capitalism. You know, like, should we be mad at that with real estate? Should we be mad at that about America? A lot of people, I've looked at their Twitter streams that have been mad at me that say, you should only collect. This should not be about flipping. But then when you look at their Twitter stream, they're pushing a lot of capitalism and business first agenda. So they want to suppress the business dynamic of these cards in their hobby, but they don't want to do it in other places, which I think is inherently selfish. Cards have been flipped forever. And that will always stay, whether I disappear tomorrow or not. And I enjoy it the way I enjoy any business, because I'm an entrepreneur. That happens like sports. That's who I am as a human. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I got more cards on here. I'm a big believer in stickers. I think soccer culture is going to bleed into our culture. And if you look at soccer cards historically, their stickers are their rookie card. So I think there's a lot of stickers from Panini, which is a huge brand now in the 90s and 80s in basketball. So that's why I have this. There's just a lot of stuff I'm looking at. I'm looking at it daily. I think weird cards are interesting. This is an 86 JMS Barkley, which was like a hand cutout card. I think it's underpriced because I think it's super interesting and weird and earlier than his 86, 87 Fleer rookie card, a different one. I think a lot about supply and demand. I do think over time population matters. A lot of people talking right now like, holy shit, look how many Lucas and Zions are on from a population standpoint. I keep saying, look, it's just supply and demand. So if there's 40,000 people that want to own a Zion rookie, then 10,000 is not going to be a problem. When there isn't, then there is a problem. And I think a lot of people need to be very careful. You have some questions?
I do.
I think I've said enough at this point. I want to be very interactive. Let's roll. Also want to say in 17 minutes I have to step out and make a quick family call. I'll be right back.
The first one.
Can you call the person?
Cool.
Yeah, I want to interact with the people so we can do some follow-up. So that's all going on. I'm super excited about it. There's a lot of people that I think are going to get a lot of enjoyment. Jim's here. He wrote a great LinkedIn post. He works on my team. He ironically used to work at Beckett when I hired. We didn't even talk once about that when we hired. Or maybe I think you might have mentioned it for a second, but that's super cool. I'll get into the happiness factor that I thought you wrote about better than anybody on your LinkedIn. Happiness, financial opportunity, not being bothered by if people are collectors and flippers. There's a lot of themes.
Hey, it's Daniel.
Andrew?
Daniel.
Oh, Daniel. Hey, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm quite well. What can I answer for you?
Hey, so I just had a question about these sports cards, because I'm sure you know, well, obviously, the market's blowing up lately, and I've seen some theories online saying that maybe a cause for this is a lot of money that investors like you, maybe your companies, are putting into the market. So I want to get your thoughts on potentially is the market overinflating right now and an impending crash in the not-so-far future.
So I think there's a lot to that. Daniel, I'm sorry, is that it? Daniel, I think there's a couple things. Yeah. Number one, anytime there's more demand, it's less about money being pumped in, it's demand. So when Dumbo was a piece of shit in Brooklyn and Williamsburg were pieces of shit 15 years ago and more people started buying up, that inherently changes the dynamic. It's no different than when I was telling people to buy Facebook stock at 40 when their business results were better and more people wanted it. It's just supply and demand of how many shares there are versus how many people want it. I think a couple things that matter. Number one, let there be no confusion. Long before 2 years ago when I started getting interesting, and then a year and a half when I got louder, and maybe 100 days ago when I got much louder, there was already, the reason it even hit my radar to pay attention was things were already happening without me. There was already demand starting to bubble up. That's what I was watching for. I watch for slime with, teenage girls, for TikTok. I'm a consumer behavior anthropologist. That's what I do for a living. That's why VaynerMedia is one of the biggest agencies in the world. We're good at strategy, and we're good at making videos and pictures for that strategy. So a couple things. The answer is absolutely. And do I think that there's a vulnerability to that with prices coming down? Of course. The question becomes, that's only predicated if demand goes away. The question becomes is less about me putting money in or other people putting money in. The question becomes, how many 6 to 20-year-olds are about to get interesting in this, and how long will it sustain? I think one of the biggest vulnerabilities to the sports card market is everything's expensive now. A pack of basic cards is $3. That keeps a lot of kids out of it. I think one of the best things that Panini and Topps can do is come out with a 99-cent product. I think it's important to keep a lot of youth into collecting and flipping. And so, I'll be honest with you, my intuition is we haven't seen anything yet. Because I'm getting bombarded and I'm watching other things that people that have nothing to do with me and have never heard of me. Somebody made a post yesterday on social, like, look, I own a card store in Canada. Not a single fucking person that's walked in my store knows who the fuck Gary Vaynerchuk is, and basketball cards are flying off the shelf. To me, everyone's like, he's inflating. I'm like, I haven't said a single thing about Zion. How many Zions do I own? Goose egg, 0. So
really? Wow.
I own 0 Zions. Now, I'm not pumped about that.
Yeah, sure.
But to me, it was like injury risk. I think if Zion gets hurt before the end of the year, like the floor collapses. And I also think that Panini made a lot more product. And I think once people get to those numbers, now Zion could be a forever player on the level of LeBron and Jordan, and then that plays out. But for me, you can't invest in everybody. Like Torres on the Yankees excites the shit. I mean, I just can't bet on all 9 guys that are really exciting for me in baseball. And I don't think it's even fun to bet on everybody. Because for me, a lot of this is like, are you right or wrong? I feel great about how right I was about Giannis. I still feel great about De'Aaron Fox. Just because he was injured and the team hasn't clicked, I don't think that changes my belief in who he is over the next decade. So it's fun to be, and by the way, I'm excited to be wrong. Let me give you some of my highlights when I was a kid. I overinvested in Todd Van Poppel. Did not work out. I thought he was going to be Cy Young. I invested, and this was with my heart, an ungodly amount of percentage of money I had on Blair Thomas, score rookie cards. Did not work out. Like, I have nothing. Bo Kimball, I thought was going to be the greatest basketball player of all time. On the flip side, I was incredibly wrong about Patrick Mahomes. That was more on just me and my friends talking about if I thought he was going to be good, less a sports card. So I think it's like any market in the world, brother. Like, it's just supply and demand. And I think we're in the second quarter of demand with sports cards, which means there's more room to grow. And I think if you spend 80% of your energy and time on the classics, Jordan, Brady, 2 guys I don't love so much, but like clearly goats in their industry, LeBron, to me, even wrestling, like The Rock, or like I think if you stay conservative on classics or all-time players, and then you have a little fun on prospects. Do you think Jaren Jackson's going to be good or not? Do you think John Collins in Atlanta is going to be good or not? Do you think Sancho is going to be good or not? Mbappe, like those are fun little bets. I think if you're the kind of person that's coming into this and buying a ton of, right now, Soto and Acuna and betting on they're going to be Trout, and that you need to be very careful, because if they're not, the demand is going to get soft and you can get caught. I mean, look at Russell Westbrook. In the heat of all of this and the heat of basketball, his cards are down because for a lot of us, we don't think he's going to reach that next plateau, and a lot of the money was in it. And so I think you have to be careful about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure it does.
Good luck. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
One of the things I like about wrestling, so I actually think comic books you can get to the next call, has a lot more upside than cards in a lot of ways, just that I love cards. And I like sports betting, and I think that's bleeding into this, and I like sneakers. But like, Iron Man doesn't get hurt, right? And neither does King Kong Bundy or The Rock. So I think the rest... Hello? Who's this?
Hey, this is Andrew.
Andrew, what's good?
Hey, how
You're chopping,
I'm
brother.
not clear right now. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too. What's your question, brother?
So my big question is, I came from the old world of the 96s where I was collecting Iversons, Kobe's, and even Carter's. Coming back to it, obviously, because what you were saying earlier was very true. Have older kids now. My daughter's 7, son's 4, getting back into it, just like everyone else. So my big thing is last year I got working with a lot of Lucas, but I was pulling. My question to you is, do you think it's a better strategy as a collector comes back in to buy boxes and maybe hold them and flip to buy like a nice PSA code, or just enjoy the fun of just opening the packs and getting love?
I think the answer is you have to be very self-aware and focus on you. Not what I say, not what others say. This is a single game of what brings you happiness. My friend Old Lou, right, who's Little Lou's dad, he loves opening wax. Now, if he lands a 1-of-1 of an iconic card, he can make that. If he pulled the 1-of-1 Wander Franco, it would have made his whole venture ROI positive. It's unlikely that most people pull such a big pull that it makes it ROI positive. If you make bets on players, there is a more financial potential of return, especially if you're good at it. The problem is, it might not be as fun for you, Alex. Right? Like opening packs is fun as fuck. Like, it's gambling.
Right, exactly.
It's gambling. So for me, go ahead.
And that's really the most fun, you know. You got kids, you got that whole game of everything going. But then I'm looking at eBay and I'm looking at comps for different things, like a nice Zion card. You can get tons of different Zion cards from different companies that are not terrible at price right now. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And then Zion gets hurt. He was already missed a big chunk at the beginning of the season, and if Zion gets hurt, the market falls apart.
Right.
Right? So or he's Giannis and Luka and keeps going through the roof, and it seems cheap right now. One thing I've noticed of people who've razzed me on Twitter, they're like, this guy comes in and thinks he's an expert. I don't think that at all. I don't think I'm an expert at all. First of all, I'm excited to do this Q&A and answer I don't know. There's a big gap in my game. I just don't know. I do know certain things. I know macro trends of human behavior pretty well, which is why I built a big career. And I know that I also follow sports, and I also have the luxury of being in a place in my life where I probably know who the human being is a little bit better than most people because I own a sports agency. I run in circles that allows me to get to know some of these people. And guess what? One of your biggest vulnerabilities is you think a kid can jump out the building, but you actually don't know that he's a piece of trash and he's going to be out of the league in 3 years because of his human behavior. So there's a lot that goes into this. There's also Derrick Rose. If I was getting involved right now, and it was right before Derrick Rose got hurt, and he's an MVP, the youngest in the league, and well on his way, and in a big market, and swaggy as shit, I'm pouring real money into Derrick Rose, and then he goes on to becoming so injured, it doesn't work out. There's Andrew Luck. My favorite thing is to figure out which quarterback's going to put another ring on to explode. Andrew Luck would have been at the top of that list. Then he just fucking retires. So there's an enormous amount of risk in this game, which is why putting it into a place of what brings you the most happiness, I'm not going to open a lot of packs. I'm going to do it at the National when I'm excited. I'm going to do it with my buddies once in a while, like with the NFL draft. When we're in the second day, we like to open packs because that's a little slow sometimes when we got the Vaynerchuk. But for me, it's much more. I'm spending 80% of my money on LeBron, on Oscar Robinson 61 Fleer from SGC because I think SGC is underpriced over time. Because for me, why does Prism have to be the leader? Why can't it be Optic? Which
is starting to happen too. And
I bring it up because I think it's why I tried to buy Luca's last night on Optic. And then what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm trying to figure out different cadences. Do I buy up stuff, but then everybody whispers? I tried something different yesterday and said, here's my price on Luca, but then it went from $350 to $530. I don't know how to play this because there's a lot of attention on me right now, and I don't know what the right thing to do is. What I'm going to do is transparency. Like, I'm thinking about, updating how many like the Zion thing from the last kid. Like, somebody hit me up today, he's like, you're hoarding Zions. I'm like, I own 0 Zions. And by the way, I'm dick shit compared to who's coming. Over the next 2 years, it is my belief that the Dwayne Wades, the Offsets, the DeBabies, the Diddy, I think a lot of people are going to start collecting. I'm going to be minor leagues in 24 months.
And I totally agree with the sticker culture coming into the card culture. Like, it's happening.
Yeah, bro. You think I'm moving the market? Wait till fucking Diddy puts a post with LeBron in his Instagram. Like, people are confused of where we are right now. I don't think I'm moving as much people think. There's 100 things moving that have nothing to do with me.
It's going to get popping. It's going to get even more.
So, Alex, to answer your question, you have to have fun with your kids. You should. If I was your money manager, I would tell you to offset that with 50% of investment on things that you think are ironclad. Like, if you believe, and by the way, I'm buying everything for the next cycle. When I buy LeBron or Magic Johnson or old basketball or other things, I'm buying for the next cycle. I'm actually already thinking about the next dip in 4 years, or 3, or 2, or 7, and then 21 years from now, because LeBron and Kobe aren't going anywhere. And that's why basketball and soccer really fascinate me, because I'm projecting them to be more popular in 20 years.
And it's going to get bigger. I mean, I have a couple Kobe's that I actually pulled from when I was a kid that I am not letting go of until, like you said.
I love it. Alex, keep going. Just enjoy it and try to make sure you don't get overexposed financially. Let's get one more in. Got 4 minutes before my call. What do we got? Name? Jonathan.
This is John.
John, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How you doing?
I'm well. What question can I answer?
Yeah, so I'm curious about soccer cards. I think they're really undervalued.
Me too.
I've been picking up Kylian Mbappe, but
Me too.
There's just no true rookies. Like I've been picking up a bunch of Kylian optics. I've done some of the Prism, so I'm just curious your thoughts. You know, Top Chrome, Prism, optics. Like, what are you thinking on that?
The biggest thing I'm thinking about is that the hobby is going to evolve. Like when I left cards, Shaq's rookie was Stadium Club, not the Beam Team. It was the Upper Deck, right? Like right now, one of the things I'm thinking a lot about is Topps Chrome is basketball's rookie card way back, but could it be Upper Deck? Like, I'm thinking about how the answer is the hobby decides what the current true rookie is, and over a 30-year window, it actually changes, which is why I'm starting to really think about alternatives. For example, I think Topps regular basketball cards, rookies, are potentially underpriced. That's why, let me pull it up. It's why I've started buying a little bit of like the regular base Topps, not just the chrome. Like, to answer your question, is it the sticker? Is it Panini? Is it Topps Chrome? The market is, like, for example, I personally, for who knows why, I'm a human being, like the Topps Update in Series 2 baseball as the rookie card more than the Chrome. But in 5 years, because Chrome is so cool, and if you look at Topps Chrome and Panini and Optic, they're more chromey out. One could argue that everybody getting excited, bat up, bat down, Acuna, Topps Series 2. One could argue that the Topps Chromes are grossly underpriced because in 7 years they become the true rookie. That goes above my pay grade and everybody else. That's the world deciding what the true rookie is. In baseball, back in the day, it was the Don Russ Mattingly rookie card, not the Topps. Like, this shit evolves. And I'd be very scared to tell you which one. By the way, one of the reasons I really like the JMS Barkley, one of the reasons I like the 1972 Icy set, one of the reasons I like some of these, there's an Elvin Hayes rookie card I have. There's a Jack in the Box 1968 Elvin Hayes that I like because it's older than his rookie, and I'm like, why can't that be the rookie? That's a card before. It's not an official set like Topps, but maybe for example, the Converse sets, the Icy sets, the Nike Jordan 85. Like, if you think about the masses getting in, why isn't the Nike Jordan 85 cooler than the 86 Fleer? Because Nike's a hell of a lot cooler than fucking Fleer. I think there's a lot of things that people haven't fucking figured out yet.
Yeah, I got a Converse set, and I'm looking at the visual appeal. So for me, the Mbappe, I just got a bunch of Prism Blue because it's blue on, blue with the jersey, and that's how I'm making those choices. How it looks.
I love it, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Here's what I'd like to do. I'm about to go and do this quick call. Jim, I'd like you to sit in here and tell your story. And then I want, if I'm not back, because it's only going to be 5 minutes, tell your story about what you wrote in LinkedIn. I thought it was super interesting. I had no idea you were doing this.
Okay.
So I think it's really cool because I think for a lot of people, enjoyment and happiness. I don't get enjoyment in buying Netflix stock and it going through the roof just because I knew Netflix was a good buy. I get a hell of a lot more enjoyment in buying sports cards, like from an investment standpoint. You talked a lot about enjoyment and happiness in your LinkedIn post. I like that. And then I think for anybody else, like if I should be back by the time he's done, but John, like Dean, like some of you, old man Lou, like if you want to get in here, like, you know, whatever, Mike, Playa, if you want to sit here and talk about how I yelled at you 2 years ago to get in and you did it, and like how you think about that, like just fill up the space here for 5 minutes. I'll be right back. It's okay.
Oh, we need your mics for
Oh, you need the mics for
at least
okay.
mine.
Okay. Both of them?
Yes.
No
Well,
problem.
just one, but
It's fine. I'll be right back. 5 minutes max. I'm excited about this. This is going well. It's fun. Jim, you go first.
Get 'em.
besides you, Paul. This one's real live.
Jim.
This is certainly unplanned. Good golly. So, yeah, I think that the story that Gary's referring to is I wrote a blog post on LinkedIn last week, and the main point was that Gary's been talking about sports cards for, like he said, a year and a half, couple of years. And I really hadn't bought in because, as he said, I used to be the editor of Beckett Baseball back in the 90s, and so I was there when it crashed, and I saw a lot of hard-working people lose their money and were really hurt, and I wasn't ready to get back into it. And then as I continued to hear Gary talk about it, it just started to make more sense to me that now was an opportunity because of that, because we had seen the 90s and we had seen what overproduction looks like, and so now there was probably a better opportunity to invest in a smarter way. So what I did was, being an older guy, I talked to my wife and I said, hey, I'd like to buy some cards over the next 5-6 months. I'm probably going to spend about $1,000, not a ton, but $1,000 is not cheap. It's not nothing either in my house. So over that 6 months, I just started buying. Lou helped me along and said, hey, you know, a lot of people get invested in Bowman paper rookies. So I started looking at like 10, 11, 12 different rookies in the 2019 Bowman set and said, look, I'm gonna invest in 50, 100, 20, 200 of these rookies and sit on them for a year and see how they do. Now, so I started doing that, and then something happened because the NBA All-Star Game came around, and I'm sitting there watching the NBA All-Star Game with my son Will, and we open up the DraftKings app. I'm like, tell you what, let's put $10 on this game. It doesn't matter. Let's put $10 on it. And we broke it up into like a bunch of little $2 prop bets throughout the game. And it was really fun. We spent 3 hours laughing, joking, yelling, screaming about these dumb little $2 prop bets on the NBA All-Star Game and had an absolute blast. And so what it triggered to me, or what it convinced me, was what Gary said, was that I kind of demonized gambling as like, oh, gambling's bad, no one should gamble, it's terrible. It's like, yeah, it's got some downsides. You need to be really careful with it. But there was some opportunity to use it in a very positive way, to have some fun and some enjoyment without going overboard. And that's where I started to think about cards that way too. That you could invest in cards without going overboard and add a lot of enjoyment with the people you share it with, like your kids. And you could do it in a way that you could decide your level of risk. You could decide how far you want to be in it. And at the end, I feel like, yeah, there's $1,000 I've got in baseball cards, but those may or may not pay off over the next year or two. But for sure, I've had a ton of fun buying those cards, researching those cards, doing the analytics behind it. Gary, I know you're like always talking about researching. Like, I'm not kidding you. The research is the fun part. Going through eBay and looking at what's available and what it costs is the fun part. Like I've won either way. So that's how I chose to get back into it. It's a pretty limited fashion.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. I don't understand this level of support. I don't get clapped. Really like. All right, let's get to the next question.
I don't have the phone on the board, but I have a good question.
You don't have the phone? Okay, give me the question.
Why are you buying so many base cards as opposed to numbers and autos and stuff like that?
Because I'm more educated on it. I'm a little bit more educated on base cards. I understand that the one-of-ones, like I understand that if I poured that same level of money into Giannis or Luka, I probably could have made a bigger financial return. I just still don't know where I sit. So one of my biggest theories is that this whole industry is about to get a lot bigger. And so for me, there's not that many people that can afford a $15,000 pair of Off-White Nike MoMA on StockX. But there's a lot of people that can afford a $300,000 pair. And so for me, one of the things I'm thinking about is if the masses come, how many people are going to be able to afford a $4,000 Giannis versus a lower end one? It's one of the reasons I'm looking at really other things. As you know, I'm looking at the hoops. I'm looking at hoops. I wasn't even thinking about hoops a year ago. I'm like, do some of these lower cost ones, are they actually going to be the market because you're getting an influx of people? And I just think that it's going to be, I think industry needs to understand that the level of amount of people that are getting in right now are different. They're not hardcore hobbyists. They're the people that are just like either like Jim and Alex and I getting back into it. There's a whole crew of like sneaker kids and just like kids that like sports and gambling that are coming in. We're just going to have a new dynamic. And I think there'll be some pros and cons from that. For me, base has been a place that one of the things I tell everybody, please pay attention to this, a lot of you. Spend 30 to 40 to 50 hours of searching eBay completed, read articles, read Twitter. There's so many people that interact with me on Twitter that are both saying I'm good and saying I'm bad, that have a lot of good things to say, that are wildly educated. One thing that I always tell my brands is like, look, you can't look at yesterday to know what tomorrow's going to bring. So a lot of people who've been in the business for the last 20 years or been collecting for the last 20 years are applying old dynamics. So they're like, oh, these population numbers are amazingly high, 9,000 PSA 10s. The problem is if there's 40,000 people, like I said earlier, that want it, that's going to throw off the supply. When there used to only be 1,000 trouts, but only 400 people wanted it, that's that. If there's 10,000 trouts, but 50,000 that want it, like, I don't think people are going to be able to calibrate the demand. This is what always happens. This is why people thought Facebook was overpriced as a stock, and I thought it was underpriced. This is why real estate always happens. They're like, oh, we missed it. Like, a lot of you right now think you missed it. Like, fuck this bullshit. Luka went from 35 to 600. Meanwhile, well, what if it's actually 2,000? Or please understand, what if it's 2,000 and then Luka has a Paul George? Like, oh, I thought about this the other day. Paul George was on his way. You want to talk about a guy I would have poured real money into? It was the Paul George a month before his horrific injury. I would have lost. Now, for me, it's less loss because I'm playing long. Like, the only gambling I'm really doing, because the National is every July, I'm gambling with Young Baseball. Because Young Baseball is fun for me. Like, I can get more into baseball. I'm trying to be better at fantasy because the last couple of years I've been, like, too busy. So it's going to force me to be better at fantasy. This is all personal. It's back to Alex, back to Jim. Why am I investing in Young Baseball? It makes me pay attention to fantasy more, and I'm in a 30-year now league with these guys, and I want to get better because the last couple of years I've fallen off because I'm busy as shit. Number two, the National is like now becoming like my Disney World trip. I can't wait to Atlantic City in July, and like going to that National, what's happening then? Baseball, hardcore baseball's happening there. So if Alonso's got fucking 32 homers by the time late July, that's going to matter at the show. You know, and so like that's why baseball's interesting to me. It's really not in the scheme of like a 30-year window the way I'm investing, because you know you could be a great player and not really matter 30 years later. I think Dr. J and Kareem are in a better place than Pete Rose or Roberto Clemente long term. I'm attacking wrestling cards here. I really like wrestling. I do like wrestling cards. I'm a lot of Dan? Oh, Mr. Fuji was the fucking best.
Hello?
Dan, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Let's go.
Hey,
I pulled a Randy the Macho Man Savage, bro. I'm super fucking pumped. Let's go, Tom the Rock. Go ahead. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so with all the rising costs, or not costs, but rising sales of sports cards that we're seeing pretty much go up day after day now, especially in basketball and baseball, do you think that we're running any sort of risk of a bubble burst, or do you think we're just creating a new floor?
Please, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then I was going to say, to also just kind of branch off of that too, in my opinion, I think that this new floor is going to price out certain people that are trying to jump into collecting, but I think that's going to open up a world of the PSA 9s and, dare I even say, like BGS 8.5s becoming sellable grades.
Or
I
bought 104, was it? I bought 104 Luka Hoops PSA 10s because I'm like, or the secondary sets become more interesting. Right? So to your point, is it going to be a PS9 Prism world? Or is it going to be a world where some of the second and third tier price stuff goes up on their PSA 10s? I don't know. But I think you're right. I think that, just like art, I don't know if you guys heard, but there's $100 million art paintings, and then there's art you can buy for $90 on Iconic. You know what I mean? Like, there's a range. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, what I don't know, and I haven't really figured out yet, for me, for my investment strategy, is it PSA? Is it PSA 9? And I think listen, I'll be honest with you. Just like the rookie changes that matters, the number one thing I'm trying to figure out is in 14 years, if PSA is not the leading brand and SGC or BGS is, could you imagine if you and I went into a time machine and 14 years from now, a BGS 9.5 carried more weight than a PSA 10? Just think about the price difference today. Like we're relying on brands. I mean, I'll be very frank with you. One of the things that's really got my attention is I just like the way an SGC case with its black looks compared to its PSA counterpart. And I've also have found from what I've submitted that SGC has been more difficult on their grading. Makes me wonder if SGC has some upside. It could also go out of business tomorrow because it's a small company. So I think what everyone's about to figure out is, do PSA 9 in modern, is that the ARB, or is it Topps regular? Is it, I bought a bunch of Bazooka, 4? How many Bazooka? I want to be really transparent. Like 11. I bought 11 Bazooka LeBron rookie cards because I'm like, well, if the fucking Chrome is going to be 20,000 and people start coming in droves and they want a LeBron, they're going to have to look at other stuff. I mean, I think the Topps regular rookie cards are a fucking arbitrage. I'm buying a ton of Durant Topps regular. I'm buying Curry Topps regular. I'm buying LeBron Topps regular. I think the Topps regular is a very interesting basketball card from that one little era when they had it. And to your point, if if a fucking Luka's $2,000 next year in a PSA 10 Prism, that is so that's game over. How the fuck are you going to afford that?
Right. Then you go PSA 10.
By the way, let me throw something I've never thought about, which is why I like doing Q&A. What if Raw comes back heavy because of it?
It might.
It might. Look, again, back to some of the heat I'm taking from the establishment. I don't think I'm right. I think I'm just communicating alternatives that may happen if I'm right about something I do think I'm right about, which is a drove of interest is coming.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm getting DMs from card store owners, ones that make fun of me, but then hit me up quietly on the back end. People at local shows seeing levels of interest that we've never seen before. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, especially on the, in my opinion, as we see stuff like the LeBron Chromes or the Luka Prisms, the Luka Prisms are going up like crazy right now. So I think we are going to see a lot of opportunity with the optic, which is starting to get kind of crazy. But also now I think PSA.
And by the way, I apologize for interrupting. Optic, the population on PSA 10 optic is like 1,000 something, and the Panini is like, and the Prism, is like 8,000 on the Luka, 11,000, right? So and it looks like the optics are tough to grade. That's the other thing. Look, there's a lot of things that haven't been figured out. I think 2012 Prism is going to go through the roof once people realize production numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's LeBron's first Heat. Like, there's just a lot of shit I'm trying to figure out. There's a lot. And it's a very exciting and not exciting time in sports cards, depending on where you sit. If you like the way it always was, you're probably frustrated. If you're excited about new dynamics happening, it's an incredible time. I like what's happening with Alex, who called earlier, and Jim. I think this thing brings a lot of happiness. I think people buy and sell and collect a lot of things on Earth. I think sports cards are special because, yes, comic books are safer and Iron Man doesn't get hurt, but you have to wait 3 years for something to happen to a comic book. A new movie comes out. Sports cards, if Juan Soto hits 2 homers opening day, I'm going to be losing my fucking mind. Don't let Luka single-handedly put his team on his back and create an upset in the first round of the NBA playoffs. You think Luka's expensive now? Do not let him drop 52 in a game 7 and they beat whoever that they're lower seed of, because they're like, don't let that happen. Do not let that happen. Do not let Luka drop 52 in game 7 against a better team and knock them out, because this hobby is going to lose their fucking mind. On the flip side,
more people,
Paul George.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just getting excited because I think people think they're right, or I think I'm right, or other people. There is no right. First of all, it's sports. Fucking Calhoun, who I think is gonna have a breakout year, got hit in the face with a fastball yesterday. Fractured his fucking face. You know, everybody went crazy on Acuna. What if Acuna tears his labrum on opening day? Sports. That's why I really like basketball, because I think old basketball players are the closest thing to superheroes. And my favorite one that Lou makes fun of me of buying all the time is this card right. Let's find it. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. I love this card. George Gervin, 74 times. The Iceman. The Iceman. All I need is one Netflix documentary on this guy, and this card goes from 180 to 800. Right? So, like, everyone's playing different angles. I don't know. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Good luck, brother. Enjoy.
All right. See you.
Let's keep it going. Weird Jordans excite me. I think this is one of the most interesting. Like, this is look how big this. This is like hanging your like off. I mean, I hate this fucker, but Brian, I think that's super underpriced. There's just not that many of them in our lake. This card, obsessed.
Your call
Then there's debating. I'm like, I'm looking at this like it's a
voicemail.
fucking 8, not a 7. And resubmit. Let's go to the next one. Well, we'll go to the next one. Akeem I'm buying because I think Africa is going to be a continent on the global map in 30 years. I'm buying this card for 30 years from now. Not to mention he's one of the 15 best players of all time. And it's mostly underpriced. I think. Meanwhile, like, I love Africa, but I didn't get that excited a couple of years ago. Brian? No? John?
What is up?
What is
John?
up?
No, Steinmetz.
Steinmetz. I'm sorry, I apologize. How are you?
I'm good, bro.
Good, bro. What's
I
your
don't know
question?
why I thought you were going to call me.
You knew it.
My question is, I did. I felt it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to say this 3 times. I'm going to say this match 3 times. And for some reason, you're going to see what it is. I don't know why.
Let's do it.
My question is, yeah. Okay.
Steinmetz?
Yeah.
What's your question, brother?
So for someone who has maybe like $100, you know, not too much money, and cause I'm not too into sports, I don't watch like that. I like playing sports, but I don't like to watch it.
Yep.
So how do I how would I try to make money when I don't invest the time to really know the players, know what's going on?
You shouldn't.
Shouldn't? Yeah. That's what I was thinking this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, look, just because I think there's an opportunity here, I think there's an opportunity in a lot of places. I think with the coronavirus, there's a ton of opportunity right now in the stock market as stocks decline. I think there's a ton of opportunity in opportunity zones in New Jersey, like Patterson and Newark. I think there's opportunities everywhere. I think there's opportunity. By the way, maybe, do you like Pokemon?
Oh, yeah, I love Pokemon. I haven't played in a while, but I love it.
Well, bro, that's your answer. Pokemon cards are outpacing sports cards. Get all in on Pokemon. Buy your first Pokemon for $60 after 25 hours of homework. Watch it go up from to 130, then flip it, take that 130, buy the next one, and 2 years later you got something brewing.
I don't know why I never thought of Pokemon cards. I heard you talk about it, but I just never let it click for some reason.
Bro, I would heavily spend 20 to 40 hours studying Pokemon, completed items on eBay, read articles that you search on Google, find some people on Twitter that know, get on a phone call, learn, go to a show, learn, and then decide, oh, this weird character I think is underrated because I think it's just really cool and a lot of people in the Pokemon community care about it, and I bet you it's going to go up in price.
Yeah, cause I can do that. That's a lot easier to do. I can do
That's
that.
your answer, brother. This is a self-awareness game. But it also is what are you trying to do? Like, I know football cold, but I think football has too many injuries, and skill players, defense players forget it. Their cards never go up. And even receivers and running backs, I think, are underpriced and not really getting there. So it becomes a quarterback game only. And so, like, to me, I know baseball because of my fantasy league, and I know basketball because it's just by far the one that I most believe in. And so that's where I'm playing. But, like, I'm going to bet with my heart. I'm going to spend a good 5% of my money and energy on Sam Darnold because I believe and I'm betting with my heart. So, like, I think you need to do around your interests, and it sounds like Pokemon's a lot better in sports, and that's what's going to matter.
Yeah, I was wondering because I never got into all. So I was like, it would be too much work, and it just wouldn't be fun for me. But now,
number two is the most important part. Work is required to be right about anything. Like,
exactly.
Work is required. But if not fun, be out. Like, I'm petrified that people invest in sports cards and don't know anything about it. Don't enjoy it. I'd rather them be like Jim and like get deep enjoyment on buying Bowman paper of prospects for 2 years from now because he gets enjoyment on it, even though that might not be the best ROI. Like, I get enjoyment out of, is it Mookie Betts? Is it Bellinger? Is it Randone? Is it Trevor Story? Is it Ariando? Like, what's the Colorado effect? What's not? Like, I love, these are nerdy things I think about. Like, Gavin Lux on a stacked team versus what's the impact of the Astros cheating scandal? Is Jordan going to be good? Is Bregman going to be good? Is Altuve going to be good? Are they not going to be good? Because guess what? If Jordan goes and hits 12 homers in the first 2 weeks and everyone's like, okay, well, it's not that, then it's going to explode and pass fucking Tatis and fucking Vlad and everybody else. So nobody's talking about Jordan in baseball right now because it's all hovered over the Astros thing. But he hit a fucking trillion homers in the minors last year. I drafted him in our fantasy league. I know. They weren't doing that shit in the minors, I don't think, even though Loose Favorite Team's got some real allegations against it. I know that gets you personally upset. All right, brother, thanks for the call. Let's get to the next one. Yeah, I just think there's a ton of arbitrages. Then there's young guys, Joe Adele. Like, people think he's going to be the best. This Rock rookie I'm super excited about. Like, these are the things I'm thinking about. Like, the Bellinger thing to me is like, the Dodgers could be stacked. Dodgers could be stupid good this year. And it's LA, and they love the fucking
Your call has
pitching.
been forwarded.
Yeah, do they have the pitching? But, like, their hitters are going to fucking hit. And it's momentum. One of the things I'm seeing the most of is momentum right now. Like, people, this, like, way and above what I'm talking about on Twitter. There's a lot going on with sports cards that I think people need to recognize. And I think it's just beginning. I think the sneaker kids and the gambling kids are going to drive the shit out of this market. Sneaker kids, gambling kids, dads. That's a lot of demand that didn't exist 24 months ago.
Hello?
Dustin?
Yes.
It's Gary V. How are you?
Hey, Gary, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm enjoying this live stream. What can I answer for you?
Yeah, it's been really good. My question
Real quick,
was...
I apologize, Dustin. I'm going to do some rapid fire at some point. I'm going to do that on Twitter, so ask your questions. If you're watching on any stream, go to Twitter, ask your questions. I'm going to have Lou at some point do a rapid fire, then take from Twitter. But go ahead. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. My question was, as you kind of get back into collecting cards, if it's something that you know, like I'm a big baseball guy, so is it better to kind of focus up just on baseball by itself, or is it better to get kind of universal knowledge in all the sports that are out there?
It's back to self-awareness. So, for example, you as a human, are you excited about the notion to care about football, hockey, basketball more? Like, does that excite you? Do you have, like, a best friend who's a huge basketball fan, but you could never get into it? Because one of the rationales is, one of the ways to really get into the sport is to start collecting it, because basketball, I do think, is the most interesting thing to invest in. and then all of a sudden you care about who De'Aaron Fox or Jaren Jackson or John Collins, like you can sucker your way into caring a lot more about basketball, and the reason you did it was macro, you thought it was the best investment, and your best friend Brandon is a huge basketball fan and you wanted to have more interest, and oh by the way, basketball is a good offset to baseball. Now you're covering 365 days